Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking time this afternoon to participate in our second webinar prior to the 2016 Midwinter meeting. It is my pleasure to introduce to you one of America's leading experts on exhibiting success. Since 1985, he has executed over 200 trade shows and is continually researching the exhibiting strategies and best practices of highly successful companies. He's president of Competitive Edge, a Charlotte, North Carolina-based exhibit marketing, consulting, and training firm. Here today to present our webinar is Jefferson Davis.
Thank you, Lisa, and thanks to everybody for logging in to what I think is a really, really important webinar here on the topic of improving trade show lead management for higher sales conversion. I've also got Brett Kolonek with Advanced Trade Show Technology. Brett, you with us?
I'm here. Thanks for having me.
You bet, man. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate your support on this. And by the way, we're going to raffle away a free lead retrieval unit to somebody who's on this webinar today. So thanks for logging in, everybody. As you may know, this program is part of the Chicago Dental Society's organizational commitment to providing maximum value for you as exhibitors. The centerpiece of the program you're seeing on the screen is the Exhibitor Return on Investment Center. That is your 24/7, 365 knowledge portal. We've got live and replayable webinars up there. We've got a whole series of exhibiting articles. We've got an ebook you can download on improving your exhibiting effectiveness. Last year we were at the show and we put together what's called a Standout Exhibits Report, which is a photographic journey on some of the best exhibits in the show and what made them so good. And then there's a downloadable budgeting and a staff evaluation tool. So make sure you've bookmarked it, make sure you've shared it with everybody on your team, and most importantly, make sure that you visit there and use the resources that are available. We've also, we'll be doing for the second year the E3 Exhibiting Effectiveness Evaluations. So if you're interested, it's a complimentary service. If you're interested in that, make sure to drop Lisa an email and say, hey, count me in on that program, and we'll be sure to visit you in action and evaluate you. All right, so let's get started here. Let's jump in. Start off with a not-so-funny joke that I saw years ago. The question is, what is the difference, for most exhibitors, what's the difference between a fortune cookie and most trade show leads? And the answer is that the fortune cookie might come true, okay? And that joke is a little bit humorous, but actually not so much, really. So we're going to take a deep dive in this topic of lead management because for too many exhibitors, this is an immediate area of improvement. And by improving this area, you will quickly improve your return on investment from the midwinter meeting. So let's get started topically and kind of prime our mental pumps on this lead topic. So number one, these are questions that I want you to quickly jot your answer to in your workbook right now. Number one, as you think about your exhibit program and you think about where you get value and you think about how you're going to get return on investment, how important are leads to your program? Jot that down. The next question, I want you to quickly jot down, how do you physically capture leads now? What is the tool? Do you take business cards? Do you have like a paper lead form? Do you rent the show system? Do you have your own universal lead capture device? But how do you capture leads now? Jot it down. Next. Now, some of you sell direct. Some of you sell through like independent reps or dealers or distributors. But here's the question. When you get your leads and you take them home from the show and you send them to whoever is going to follow up on them, do you know what becomes of the leads? Do you know if they were followed up? Do you know if they converted to a sale? If so, do you have a way of knowing what the financial value was for your company? So jot down your answer to that question. Do you know what becomes of your leads? Number four, do you set goals? Do you walk into the show with a specific lead goal, or do you kind of have what I would call a catch-can approach to trade show leads? So do you set specific leads? Okay, so let me do a poll on that fourth question. I'm sorry. I'd like to find out how many of you on the webinar today actually set specific lead goals for your trade show program. Fastest fingers. Look at the radio dial button. Your choices are yes, no, and You kind of do, but not so much. I'll give you just a moment here. Got a good turnout on today's webinar, so I'm looking for 100% participation here. We're up at about 80%. If you haven't replied yet, press the button that applies. Go ahead and do so. If you're looking at email or something like that, come back with me for these next 45 minutes. I promise this is going to be priceless time for you. Cool, we're at almost 90%. I'm going to go ahead and share the results. And so you can see kind of what's happening with your colleagues here. So it looks like about 43% of us do set specific goals. 30% of us don't. And those of you who said we don't set goals, maybe send me through the question queue, maybe just a quick 1 or 2 words, why not? Maybe goals leads aren't important to you. Maybe you don't know how. But go to those of you who said no, go to your question queue and just type a few words as to why not and send that to through the question. And I'll share some of those ideas, not spotlighting anybody individually. And those of you who have a somewhat, okay, we'll be tightening that up. Okay, so some of the key insights I want to share on lead management here is, as we get going, is number one, here's a big idea. Number one is really important, okay? If you're not writing orders on the show floor, and you ever want to get real, physical, financial, I'm talking money in the bank, return on investment, then you got to realize that the real product of the show for you, the real takeaway, is leads. So that's a key point. If you're not getting ROI, and ROI is important to you, then it's really about your leads. Okay. Now that being said, look at numbers 2, 3, and 4. 87% of the leads that are captured on a trade show floor are never effectively followed up. And this not only hurts you and your company because it limits your ROI, but it also hurts your brand reputation in the marketplace. And I tell you what really hurts is the dentists and the dental professionals that are spending their time in the exhibit hall. They stop in our booth. They ask for information. You know, they're interested. And we don't follow up. Nobody wins when somebody doesn't follow up. Okay. Number 3, this is a kind of a shocking one here. 3 out of 4 salespeople that receive trade show leads view them as cold calls. Now I want you to think about that for a minute. A dentist walked into your booth, engaged with your staff, gave you a card to scan or swipe. How is that a cold call? How can that be a cold call? Something's wrong here. We've got to work on this a little bit, and which is what we're going to work on today here, okay? Number 4 is pretty mind-blowing, but 43% of show attendees that go to the show with close purchase intent receive information from exhibitors after they've made the buying decision. So we're going to talk about speed of follow-up and how important that is and how to get your plan together, your follow-up plan before you get to the show. And I think number 5 insight is that a lot of these problems start with the low perceived value of trade show leads and the capture process. And we're going to work on that today, making sure everybody is looking at this through the proper lens or frame, if you will. Okay, and then the reality is that very few exhibitors really know what becomes of their leads. I'm in my 25th year now, quarter of a century as a trade show consultant trainer, and the hundreds and hundreds of companies I've worked with in a one-to-one consulting training manner. I'm amazed that coming in, how few of them have what I call a closed-loop lead management system in place. Okay, so these are some of the key insights. And some of the things that are behind this is, first of all, the perceived quality. Second, we've got this marketing and sales disconnect. You know, we're part of the same food chain here, if you will. But often marketing selects and books and pretty much executes the show, and sales is often asked or forced to staff the show, often against their desire. You know, you'd be amazed at how many times I've flown to Chicago for trade shows, and I'm sitting next to somebody on an airplane. I go, "You going to the show?" They go, "Yeah." I go, "What do you do, man?" "I'm in sales, right? I'm exhibiting. I'm in sales." "Why are you going to the show?" "To do my time in the booth, right? Do my time." I'm like, my first thought is like, did you get sentenced? You know, they're going to give you like a orange jacket and a trash picker here to walk around and what's going on here, right? Do your time? This is an incredible opportunity. So what we got to do is get the marketing and the sales team on the same page. I think the job of marketing is to really figure out the company's value proposition and the target audience, and then use communications to create attention, to grab attention, and build interest. And then I think it's sales' job to take this attention and interest and turn it into desire and action. AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. It's kind of the customer acquisition formula, if you will. And sales and marketing both have a big hand in that. So we've got to get on the same page. Number 3, 86% of the human beings that stand on an exhibit floor have never had a single hour of skills training in how to do this. And this causes them to make behavioral and communication mistakes that limit your booth traffic, that limit your lead quality, that limit your lead quantity, and ultimately can limit your ability to get ROI from a show. Remember this, write these 2 words down. Really, when you strip a trade show down from all the exhibits and the lights and the demonstrations, what's really going on here? Trade shows are about face, and trade shows are about next. Write those 2 words down, face and next. That's the magic. That's what it's all about. So it's about face and it's about next. And only your people can manage the face part of it. Okay, so do you have enough people in the booth? Do they understand how the environment's different? Are they well trained on how to engage visitors, guide them through questions, how to present your company story, your product messaging? Do they understand what a lead really is? Number 4. You know, a lot of times, you know, when we're doing our E3 evaluations and we're talking to exhibitors, and I'll see like a person walk into the booth and just hand the booth staffer their card to scan, and they'll say, could you send me some information? And the exhibitor goes, sure, let me scan your card. And they scan their card, and then the visitor turns around and walks away. And I see the exhibitor go, woohoo, look at this, I got a lead. No, you didn't get a lead. What you got was an inquiry. So we got to define. We got to make sure everybody on our staff has a crystal clear definition. When we say trade show lead, this is what we mean. And we're going to define that today. Number 5, the lack of a closed loop lead management system. Here's what's interesting about number 5, is that many of you listening today are getting a significant return on your trade show investment, but you can't see it. And the reason you can't see it is you don't know what's becoming of the leads, right? We don't know really what's becoming. We're selling through dealers, distributors, independent reps, and we capture a lead and we send them out, and we just don't know what became of it. So putting a closed loop lead management system in place is not only going to be a ROI generator, it's also going to become a business intelligence process, tool. So we got to close the loop. So these are some of the stuff that's going on that's impacting this trade show lead conundrum, if we want to call it that. Okay, so let's get after this. Let's grab your pen, grab a calculator, and I'm going to walk you through 2 formulas here that are going to be extremely valuable in helping you create the awareness of what's going on here with leads. Number 1 is this is a very important number to run. It's a financial performance metric. Take your total show investment, divide it by the number of leads you captured, and you have your cost per lead. In my example, it's $500. Is that high? Is it low? Is it good? Is it bad? Well, it depends on what I compare it to, right? Now, if I sell like loops or some form of a device, and I have $1,000 average sale amount, and my cost per lead is $500, then 50% of my revenue, my margin, will be devoured by lead acquisition cost. So I got a problem there unless I'm selling multiple devices or multiple loops, right? But on the other hand, if I have a $5,000 average sale and $500 of that is going to lead acquisition, I'm looking pretty good. So it's important that you calculate your cost per lead. And I'll also tell you how to use that number to get your team to follow up as we drill into this topic. Here's the second one, the revenue opportunity. So to figure this out, what you want to do is first, you want to talk to your accounting department and you want to ask, what is our average sale amount? I know you got high and you got low and you got middle sales. Fastest way to get to that number is to take your annual revenue and divide it by the total number of transactions that were conducted. So let's say in my example that I have a $25,000 average sale amount. Now, I capture 150 leads from the midwinter meeting. Now, not all of those are going to convert, but 1 out of 4, if I do this right, should and could convert. So in that case, I'm going to have 35 sales after the show. When I multiply that by the $25,000, the 38 by the 25,000, that's almost $1 million of revenue. And I look at this in two ways. If I follow up my leads well, I'm in position to capture that. But if I don't follow up on my leads well, I'm forfeiting that. I'm essentially losing that. So your cost per lead will help you determine the financial value of an individual lead, and your revenue opportunity is what you should be searching for post-show. Okay, so hey, if I can pull $1 million out of the show within the next 9 months, and I spent $50,000 to exhibit, I'm talking about big-time return on investment, right? So you got a couple formulas here to kind of get people to, as I like to say, wake up and smell the concrete, right? Get clear about what's really going on here. Now, here's a big one, number 3, okay? So let's say that I am a dentist. In fact, I'm a Dr. Famous dentist. I'm known, you know, everybody knows who I am. And I walk into your booth at midwinter meeting, and I engage your staff, and I share some information, and I give you my card to scan, and I ask you to follow up with me, and you don't follow up. Here's the question. How does your not following up impact your company's brand in the dental market? You know, there's an old saying, when people are happy, they'll tell 1 or 2 people. When people are mad or disappointed, they'll tell like 5 or 10 or 15. You know, at that next dental meeting where all the dentists are getting together and rubbing elbows, they'll go, hey, man, I went by that booth. I was very interested in what they did. They didn't follow up. Don't go there, man. They won't follow up with you. You don't want that happening out there, right? So this is a very serious talk here that we're having about getting clear about the real cost of poor lead management and some very practical ways to approach it and think about it. Okay, now by the way, again, if you have questions, at any moment they flash in, type them in your question queue, press send. I will stop at maybe 1 or 2 places here as we move on, and I'll look at and respond to questions. Okay, next one. See that diagram there, the image, the circle, the closed loop, right? It's a circle, and notice it's colored too, red, green, and blue. So we break closed loop management down into 4 phases. Number 1 is capture. And what we're trying to do is, now I have this in blue because it's the cold part of the process. So what I want to do is capture high quality. I'm going to give you a definition what constitutes quality in a moment. But that's job 1, the first phase. So you got to look at your capture device, the physical tool you're using, the questions you're asking, the training you're doing with your staff, and how you're bringing all that together to get quality leads. I don't want a quantity. I don't want a haystack, you know, with 5,000 needles in it that I'm, you know, 5,000, what do you call it, straws of hay that I have to dig through to find 5 needles, right? That's what I want is 5 needles. You know, I want the needles, not the haystack, all right? So quality is the name of the game. Number 2, now red, hot, move, go. I got to make sure that these leads are moving quickly from when we capture them into the exhibit They get into our CRM system. They get into the hands of the people that follow up, and this is happening fast, laser fast. So I got to move them to the right people. Then I move into the green phase here, the money part of the phase. I got to make sure that the people I'm giving leads to, that they're following up on these leads, that they're actually doing something with it, right? And I'm trying to convert them to some form of action, typically purchasing action. And number 4, I've got to make it easy for the people I give these leads to report back to me. What became of this lead? Did you follow up? Did they buy? If they did, what and how much? If they didn't, who did they buy from and why not us? Right? So that's what I'm trying to get in my reporting to keep it simple. Was it followed up? What became of it? Did they buy something? If so, what and how much? If they didn't buy from us, why not? If they bought from someone else, who did they buy from and why? So now my closed loop lead management becomes a business intelligence tool. It becomes a sales forecasting tool. It becomes a return on investment generation tool. So this closed loop system. What I'd like you to do right now is you look at these 4 phases. I'd like you to score yourself on a 1 to 5, your company. 5, you're very effective. You've got this nailed. 1, it's flat out ineffective. This is not being addressed well. So score yourself on these 4 factors on a 1 to 5. And that will also help you, as we tear through the rest of this content, really help you figure out where to focus and what to do when you get off this webinar. Because you've got time here to put this together. You don't have a lot of time, but you've got enough time. We're like, what, 7 weeks from showtime? So you got plenty of time to bring this all together. All right. So let's roll up our sleeves, okay? A lot of that was kind of setting the frame, foundational content. Let's get really into the woods right now. You see that fishbowl there with business cards? That's what a lot of companies will call leads, right? So we got to define what is and what isn't. When I define a lead, I give it 4 factors. Number 1, there's been personal interaction. Somebody stood face to face with this person. Number 2, the right questions were asked. Number 3, the answers captured, documented. And number 4, the next step was clear and agreed to by the visitor. Think about that definition. Tell you what, you give me 50 of those, I'll convert 15 to 25 of those to business. You give me 500 business cards in a fishbowl, I'll be lucky to convert 5. I'll probably be lucky to convert 1. So let's make sure that everybody knows what is, what isn't. Because what isn't a lead is a business card at a fishbowl or a business card that ends up in somebody's pocket and you don't even know that the lead was captured and the pants end up in the washer and the opportunity goes down the drain, right? That's right. And I tell you what else I don't really consider a lead. Just swiping or scanning a badge with no engagement and no additional information. I was at a show recently, and we were doing our evaluations. So we go into booths, and 5 times at that show, booths had young ladies that came up to me and usually would ask me, "Sir, would it be all right if I scanned your badge?" Scan. They had no idea who I was, why I was visiting, if I had any interest, right? And somebody is going to go back and tell their boss, "Hey, we got 5,000 leads from that show." No, you didn't get 5,000 leads. You got 5,000 scans, right? Swipes. I'm not a buyer. And they're going to turn their salespeople loose on me. And guess what their salespeople are going to do? They're going to go, "These trade show leads are garbage, right? Jefferson's not a buyer, right? How did he end up in there?" I don't want quantity. I want quality. Quality. So write these 2 phrases. Information rich, a committed next step. That's the key. That's a lead. Anything else is less than a lead. Okay, so let's keep rocking. So here's a question. You guys are doing a pretty good job on setting goals. I think almost 45% of you set goals. And yet I wonder how you do that. The way many companies do it is they'll go, "Well, how many leads did we get last year?" We got 200. Well, let's go for 220 this year. Well, here's the question. Was 200 the right number? Could it have been higher? Should it have been lower? I don't know. Grab your pen, calculator, and let's do this right now. Trade shows are about face, and trade shows are about next. And here's a key insight, key point, VIP, very important point. You have a limited amount of capacity for face-to-face interaction in your exhibit. Okay? So the question is, how much? So the exhibit interaction capacity brings some science to this. Now, run this formula with me. Grab your pen, calculator, use your numbers, not mine. I'm going to walk you through mine. The CDS Midwinter Meeting has 24 exhibiting hours. What's that called? Your playing field. What's that called? The real opportunity. Now, the ones in green are the variables, okay? So, how many people are going to be standing in your booth, on average, for those 24 hours, for the purpose of talking to dental professionals? Write the number down. Rule of thumb, 50 square feet per staffer. If you got a 10 by 10 booth and you write 5, I'm telling you, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have too many staff, not enough space for the visitors, and you're going to struggle. Okay? So now, make sure you got your booth staffing right in terms of the number. Now multiply the 2 and you have your staff hours. That's called your capacity. What do you want for those 48 staff hours? I can tell you what I want. I want my salespeople face-to-face, toe-to-toe with dentists and hygienists and assistants and practice managers. How many per hour? The next variable? Well, listen carefully. 3 per hour, conservative. 4 interactions per staffer per hour, moderate. 5 interactions per hour per staffer. Maybe aggressive, not necessarily. So I want you to pick one of those numbers, 3, 4, 5 to start. Conservative, 3, maybe aggressive, 5. Now multiply the number together and you've got your magic number. Okay, in my example, I have the capacity for 192 face-to-face, toe-to-toe interactions. That's it. If I don't like the numbers, I could change the variables. Can I change the number of hours in the show? No. Set, fixed, right? Can I change the number of booth staff? Within reason, don't overstaff. On the other hand, don't understaff. If you're a small company in a 10 by 10 booth and there's one person in your booth and nobody else available, every time you're talking to someone, you're out of play. Okay? So we got to get at least 2 in a 10 by 10. Can you change the number of interactions per hour per staffer? Yeah. How? Good pre-show marketing, right? We've done a webinar on that. It's up on the Exhibitor ROI Center. If you haven't viewed it, go view it. It's a must view. How to identify and attract enough of the right dental professionals to your exhibit. We go in great detail on how to do that. Go look at that webinar if you haven't. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. Okay? So for, pre-marketing, having a well-designed exhibit, I know exactly what you do. There's a value proposition or something for me to do in your booth. Having a good booth staff who stands, smiles, engages, and looks and act like they want to be there. All these things can raise that interaction per hour number. I'm telling you empirically, based on my 30 years of exhibiting experience and my now heading in my 25th year as a consultant trainer, start in the 3 to 5 range. You will not go wrong. Now, what percentage of my interactions could or should convert to a lead? I want you to start with 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4. That's realistic. And then let the numbers prove out the story, right? You create your lead goal. By closing time at the CDS Midwinter Meeting, we will have captured at least 48 qualified leads. And then check this out. So if I have 2 booth staffers that are going to be working in my booth, now I can manage them. I can go, when you're in the booth, your goal is 1 qualified lead per hour. Is it possible that you could get one qualified lead per hour if you were really focusing on purpose? And the answer is what? Of course. It's one of those of course places, right? Yeah, I could probably get more than that. But what I don't want you to do as you first use this formula is I don't want you to go pie in the sky here. I don't want you to set yourself up for failure. And so if you'll start in these numbers, 3 to 5 interactions, 1 out of 4 convert, you're going to be right in the sweet spot. And if you don't like the numbers, change the variables. Okay? But start there. I can project your post-show sales from this formula right now. What percentage of leads convert to a proposal? What percentage of proposals convert to a closed deal? And what is your average sale amount? I can physically project your ROI within 5% by taking that formula 3 more steps. Now guess what I've got? An ROI target for the show. Okay, so if I quit now and didn't give you anything else, hopefully you've got some ideas here already, on how to improve this game. Number 1, get clear on what is a lead. Number 2, make sure your staff knows the cost per lead and the potential value post-show. Set realistic lead goals. Assign to your staff. Give your staff ownership of this, okay? If you're going to the show and you're working at a booth, when you walk off that show floor, the reason I'm paying for you to be at the show is to bring me 24 qualified leads. That's 1 per hour. Doesn't seem very daunting, does it? Okay. Now, here's the next piece. We're going to move into the capture process. Okay? Don't just accept what is embedded in the badge. When you scan the badge, there's going to be some information in there, like their name and their practice name and their address and maybe their email, maybe their phone number, what type of registration they have. But that's not all you should be getting. So write that rule down again. Don't just accept what's embedded in the badge. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get with your sales team and ask them what information, if we could capture, would really help us value a lead, would improve the quality, would make you want to follow up on the lead, right? What products were they interested in and how high was the interest? What is their buying role or influence? How do they go about evaluating this type of product or service? Who's on the evaluation and or decision team? Who are they currently buying from now? What are they currently using? If they're shortlisting at the show, what other competitors are they looking at? What's most important to them when they buy this type of product or service from anybody, right? What's their purchase time frame, or if there's any seasonality involved here, and what's our next step, and all this stuff you could be getting. So what I would suggest we do is talk to your sales team and say, what information should we be capturing? And then you customize your capture device to get this information, right? You build it into your information, to your capture device. And now you grade the quality of your leads by how much information your booth staff captured. If you just scan a card and says send literature, that's not good enough. Here's another idea. Catch this one. Tell your booth staff this. You may never have this chance again. When Dr. Davis walks into your booth and engages with your staff, you may never have this chance again. Don't squander the opportunity, okay? Now, let's talk about getting your sales team and or your distributors, however you go to market. I don't know. There's a lot of you on the webinar, and I don't know how you go to market, but I want to how to support this process. Number 1, tell everybody that we're serious about trade show ROI, and we are putting a total lead quality improvement program in place right now for this show, okay? Calculate and share your cost per lead. Okay, so if your cost per lead was $500, like the example I showed you earlier, and you hand Michael 10 leads after the show, you're handing Michael $5,000 of your company's money. I think Michael needs to know that, don't you? Calculate and share cost per lead. Set 3 firm post-show reporting dates. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. 45 days, 90 days, 180 days. Say, hey, when I give you this $5,000 of capital, these 10 leads at 500, I need to know what became of them. So on the 30-day, the 60, 90 day, I want to hear back from you on these, okay? If you don't have a culture of reporting accountability, which many companies don't when it comes to this, then you might consider a contest to jumpstart this program. You might say, hey, the rep who converts the highest percentage of their trade show leads to a confirmed in-clinic appointment within 30 days wins X. The person that gets the highest number of written proposals within 90 days wins Y. The person who closes the highest percentage of their leads to business and reports back wins Z, X, Y, Z. And you could see how those rewards would scale as the value of the result to me scaled. Confirmed appointments, written quotes proposals, signed deals, closed orders. Some of you, have been beating your heads against the wall, trying to get reps and dealers and distributors to follow up and or report, and they don't. Well, here's an idea. Especially when you improve the quality of your lead and you've communicated and you calculate the cost per lead, if they're not going to follow up, if they're not going to report, consider charging them for the leads. Hey, we paid $500 for this lead. That was I'll show you the cost. It's our physical cost. I'm going to give them to you for $100. Question, if they pay you $100 for a lead, you think they're going to follow up on it? I'm thinking so. All right, let's talk about your device here. Remember we said it starts with the capture device. So really, these are the 4 generations of lead capture devices. First, you have your, just taking business cards. And then you've got a paper lead form where maybe you're stapling the card to it and you're writing information. And then you've got renting the show lead capture system. And then you've got a sub-level of that, which is running and customizing it by using custom qualifiers. And then number 4, the highest level, is you own a universal lead capture system. So let me do a quick poll here. I want to find out how everybody on this webinar here is currently capturing leads. The poll is live. Fastest fingers, click the radio dial button that applies. I'll give you just a moment. All right, we're to 75%. You're moving fast. Those of you, if I've lost you a little bit, come back in, press the button. Let's get this thing up over 80, maybe to 90. A few more. I'll give you just a moment. I'll count you down on a 3, 2, 1. The market is closed. All right, let me show the results. Well, this is interesting. 1 out of 4 of you collect business cards. Another 1 out of 4 of you use paper lead forms, and 45% rent the system, and only 5% have a universal lead capture. Here's my suggestion. Move to the next generation as fast as possible. What's the problem with business cards? I see a lot of problems with them. Number 1, what if the dentist isn't carrying a business card? Then what? Also, how much information, additional information, can you capture on a business card? Here's another problem. The business card ends up in somebody's pocket. You don't even know it was captured, right? So these are problems here. The paper lead form is better, and sometimes even though you have an electronic system, you'll still have a paper system. And then sometimes you'll use the paper in the hand-to-hand to do quick circles, check, and then enter them into the system when you're done. So it's better. But number 3, think about this. The dentist walks into your booth. It's their first interaction with your company. They like you. They like the people they've talked to. They think your products are good. They hand you their badge to scan, and you can't scan it. I just want you to think about that for a moment, the impression, that what might happen in the dentist's mind. Seems like most everybody else can scan this. I wonder why he can't. Not a good way to start the relationship. So I would suggest minimally that you have the system. Ideally that you go to custom qualifiers. And if you do a lot of shows and really can justify universal, that's the highest level. There's some amazing stuff you can do with universal. But keep in mind, when you have a universal system, you'll still have to work with not just CDS, but any show for that matter, the lead company to work out how are you going to capture data that's encrypted. Okay, so thanks for participating on that poll. I'm going to, a couple thoughts here. You'll see this in your workbook also. Remember we said building a qualification flow. This slide here, which is in your workbook also, kind of gives you the natural flow, contact information, relationship with company. If you want recon on the marketing you're doing, your situational questions, the area of interest questions, then your harder qualifiers, then your next action and having space for freehand notes. It's a great example of how to put together a opportunity card is what I like to call it, or a customer assistance card. Not only would this be a great tool to capture a lot of information quickly and easily, but now it will guide my staff through. And notice that we've kind of built these questions in the natural flow of conversation. Tell me a little bit about your practice and what you do with the practice, and what are you doing in this area now, and what are some of the challenges or problems or goals that you've got in here. Based on that, now I can talk to you, and then I'll come back around. Well, tell me about your involvement in maybe evaluating or in purchasing. And where are you in the process? And if you were to bring this type of thing in your practice, what do you see as the time frame? And what do you think our next step should be here? What do you think we should do next, right? And then I can capture all that information. Now I've got an information-rich, committed lead. Remember, trade shows are about face, and trade shows are about what's next. So getting that visitor to be clear on what the next step is and agreeing to it are absolutely critical. And you just got to remember from Scripture, just ask and ye shall receive. Hey, what do you think our next step is? What would you like us to do from here? Okay, let me open it up for Q&A. I'm going to look at the queue, and while I do that, I'm going to bring Brett Kalanick on. He's with Advanced Trade Show Technology. Hear me when I say this. There's no sales pitches here today, but what he does want you to understand is what's available, okay, so you know. So Brett, take it away. Tell us about the lead retrieval options through CDS.
Oh, Jefferson, appreciate it, and thanks for the introduction. We are the preferred lead retrieval and registration provider for the midwinter meeting. We offer two packages. The package one is a versatile mobile app that works with your iPhone, Android phones, iPad, or Android tablets. On the iPhone, you have to have an operating system of 5+. Android is 2.3 or higher. We have found that the newer generation phones with the higher resolution cameras tend to capture the leads a little faster. There's a little less messing around and positioning to scan the barcode. This device is able to put in custom qualifiers, and it does come with preset qualifiers. Additionally, you are able to take notes, editable surveys. So, as Jefferson was talking about, you can really document the information from your leads, and you can identify and document the next steps for following up with anybody that attends your booth. The pricing there is below. It is a per license, so if you do have the mobile solution, once you download the software to a device, it does have to stay with that device. So if you're planning on rotating booth staff or booth workers, people are going to be going to a meeting, just understand that you do need to have the device in the booth at all times. Now you can move on to the next one. Our second offering is a portable handheld scanner that has a touch screen. We provide a USB stick. All your leads are backed up to a memory stick. There is no power required for this device either. You can scan up to 8,000 leads. Again, the USB stick is able for it to be taken away. This does connect Bluetooth to a wireless printer. With this option, you can have custom qualifiers, or you can use the standard qualifiers that come associated with the device. And the next page is our pricing. And again, the printer does only work with the handheld device. The printer, unfortunately, does not work with the mobile solutions at this time.
All right, thank you. Anything else you want to share, Brett, on electronic lead capture or your systems in specific?
Yes, on the mobile device, you're actually given a portal. With that portal, after the show, all the leads are sent into the cloud. You will log in from an email that we send out. You'll have the link. You can go in there anytime you need to access the lead, download the information. Everything exports into a CSV file, both on the mobile device as well as the handheld unit.
Okay, thank you. So we've got some questions coming into the queue. None of them are device specific, Brett. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and tear through the content, and then I'm going to take the questions on the back end here. So everyone who has questions, make sure you hang around for a few minutes. We did have technical issues, and we got about a 7-minute late start. I'll probably have you wrapped pretty close to the top of the hour here at 3. So stand by. We've got several questions. I want to take those, but also have several important things to cover. So thanks so much, Brett, for being with us, and also thanks for being the sponsor and raffling away that free system. Somebody will be very excited shortly after this webinar.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody's time today.
You bet. Thanks. All right, let's go to another best practice here. What gets measured gets done. What gets measured also gets improved. So I'm a big believer in setting the firm lead goals, and you'll see on the screen here how we break this down, where we build a graph, and we have a lead captain who at the end of the shift, so if it's a 9 to 5 show, at 1 p.m., they're checking in. Our goal for the shift was what? They write in the actual at the end of the PM, then they'll calculate up for the day, and are we ahead or are we behind? So when you set a lead goal and you assign it, it's important to track it. Don't wait till the end of the show to track it. The game's over when the doors close. You want to be able to make like mid-game corrections, just like a football game, right? It's the end of the first quarter, and the score is 17-10. We're down by 7. What are we going to do better this next quarter, right? What do we got to change in our game plan? So using a tool like this is a great way to let everybody know you're serious, track performance. And also at the end of the show, you also get to see kind of the peaks and valleys, and that'll help you as you plan for future shows. Next thing, not all leads are created equal. So we need to find a way to grade or assign value. And the best way we figured out is to determine what information for you would make a lead hot, warm, cold, ABC, however you want to say that. Then think about how many codes you need to really value the lead. In my example here, the time frame for the purchase, if there's budget or funding available, and the buying role of the individual I'm talking to are the 3 criteria. So then we'll define, it's an A+ because the time frame is 0 to 3 months. There's money funded or budgeted, and this person has final say or specification on what they buy. You can see now in A, it drops down to a little longer time frame, and it starts to change as it goes down. So you do that, and then you make sure that the data that you need to value the lead is integrated into the capture device. Okay, so time frame, budget, buying role. I want to make sure those questions are in my device. I also want to brief my booth staff that these are must-ask questions, right? This is how we're going to know if you're doing your job in the booth, is you're asking the right questions of visitors, okay? Now, after the show, I can go, I got 25 A's, 14 B's, and 15 C's. Not all leads are graded equal. Remember your lead captain? Somebody's got to drive this ship. It won't happen by itself. So the lead captain probably sets and communicates the goal to the team. They make sure the capture devices are available and functioning. They're monitoring the goals on a shift-to-day basis. They're acknowledging people who are really playing the game at a high level. They're correcting people who are not performing. Hey, it's the end of the day, first day. Michael had a goal for 8 leads and only got 2. I need to talk to Michael. What's going on? Why only 2? Mike, John got 8. Mary got 10. You got to carry your weight here, right? This is what we're spending a lot of money to be here. They might be the person that ensures the data moves from the capture device into your CRM, and they might be the point of contact for post-show reporting. Lead captain, critical role. Building a culture of reporting accountability. We said earlier, communicate cost per lead. We talked about contests. I would set some contests for the show. You know what? I would have the person that gets the highest number of qualified leads by the end of the show wins X. I might break it down into a end of day thing and have a daily lead, most valuable lead person, and really get everybody playing the game on purpose here. That end of shift or end of day quick review meeting, circle the wagons in the booth. Don't just when the show closes at 5, we're not running for the doors at 4:45. We're in the booth till 5:15. What are we doing? We're reviewing the day. Our goal was X. We got Y. Let's take a look at the quality of these leads. Let's make sure we've got that right. What are we going to do better tomorrow? The close of show report from the exhibit manager will say, here's our goal, here's what we captured, here's our cost per lead, break it down by here's how many and the percentage and count by priority and the potential value of the leads in the close of show report. Now you got to follow up on leads, right? Biggest piece of advice I give you, get your plan together before you get to the show. Don't wait till you get back and you've been out of the office for 5 days. What are we going to do with these leads? Time will pass. Move fast or in line with the visitor's request. The visitor said, hey, we're not going to really be in the zone here for about another 3 months. So you want to make sure that you acknowledge that too. Plan for 6 to 12 month touches over the next 3 to 6 months and use multiple media, right? Use email, use mail, use telephone, use in-person visits, connect through social media. But develop so you have an A lead follow-up plan, a B lead follow-up plan, and a C lead follow-up plan. And you got it together before you get to the show. It's ready to go. You can actually start deploying it right when the lead enters the booth. Make sure in your follow-up that it's not just sell, right? Deliver value, right? Educate people, inform people, keep people up to date. Social media posts, newsletters, sending samples, testimonial letters, videos on YouTube, promotional products too, the type that are refillable. I love those as a way to keep in touch in a non-threatening way. Maybe it's a block of 3M Post-its that every 90 days your leads get this block of 3M Post-its with your branding on it that sets where? Right on the desk, right? Stuff like that. Mail, some quick hitters here. We're short on time, so I'm only going to hit a few. Number one, oversized postcards are good. Make sure you link it back to the show. Here's the information you requested at the midwinter meeting. A clear call to action. With email, make sure that you've got the meeting name in the subject line, right? That way they reference it. Keep your subject line short. Don't put a lot of hyperlinks. And don't send a lot of attachments. It'll end up in spam filters, maybe one. Telephone. Pick up the phone and call these leads, all right? Ask, when you're in the booth with them, say, what time of day typically is best for you to take phone calls? Ask at what time. Don't assume. I tell you, if you really want to test how serious they are about talking to you, see if you can get their cell phone number, right? Social media. Immediately after the show, look them up on LinkedIn, look them up on whatever other social media channels they might be using and connect with them or follow them or friend them. Watch the groups they're in and join those groups. Watch the conversations that are happening in those groups and add to those conversations. LinkedIn in-mail, the number of in-mails that get read versus general email. Last thing I said, something like 1 out of 4 LinkedIn in-mail get read. Something like 4 out of 100 emails get read when it comes to sales-related type topics. So remember, in social media, too, it's about sharing knowledge. It's not just about selling. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here in a very short period, and yet I feel like maybe we've only kind of scratched the surface here. So what I want to do is I'm going to open the question queue. Excuse me. Some of you probably need to bounce, and if you do, please watch for your survey. You'll get that in about 3 or 4 minutes. Please be sure to complete that. Remember, CDS is your partner here. Lisa's incredible. I don't know anybody that loves her exhibitors more than Lisa, and she does everything she can do to help you have a successful show. She was the one that went to bat and got the organization to make a big investment in this programming for you because she cares, right? She wants you to get results. So, Lisa, we thank you very much for your caring and commitment to exhibitors.
Oh, no problem.
You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I always felt, I've told you guys this before that are listening, I've been in over 200 shows, and I always felt like the only time I heard from the show producer is when they wanted to check or when they wanted to send me that service kit telling me all that stuff I had to do but didn't want to do. And what a joy it is, really, to work with a great show like CDS and Lisa and the team who cares, right, enough about us as exhibitors. You know, how many other dental shows you guys go to that do this? I would venture to bet few to none, right? So you got a gem here you're working with, and see CDS as your marketing partner and use these resources, and that's why we're doing all this. So with that in mind, I'm going to open up the question queue. I got several questions here. Let's get after it. Somebody asked me that I mentioned two words to write down earlier, faith and next. No, it was face, F-A-C-E, and next. Trade shows are about face, and trade shows are about next. That's what I was talking about. What are the right questions, somebody asks. I can't give the perfect ones for you without knowing your situation, but I can tell you this. They fall into situational questions, meaning you're learning about the dentist, the application, their practice, what they're currently doing, what the goals, problems, or pain points are. Those are called situational front-end questions. So you learn enough about them so you don't just start talking product. And they're qualifying questions, which are interest, money, buying process, buying time frame, next step. So when I say the right questions, I would structure them in your situational questions up front, 2 or 3 or 4 questions. Tell me a little bit about your practice and what you're doing in this area and what you do with the practice and what are some of the, you know, if there's something you could improve about this, what would it be? You know, what sort of problems or challenges are you having? Those are your front-end type questions. The goal of the front-end questions are to gain understanding, so now when you talk about your product service, you can link it back to a stated need or a problem. That's the fast track to really good selling, okay? So those are the types of questions. Somebody asked, what is a quality lead? We've defined that. Information-rich, committed next step. If you've asked the right questions and built a grading code, you will know exactly what the quality of your leads are. Somebody asks, what is the percentage of visitors that convert to lead? My answer to that would be start with 1 out of 4. Unless you're using, like, you know, the candy bowl and spin the wheel to, you know, get money and stuff like that. If you're doing a lot of sampling, your lead count might be a little lower because it's a grab and go thing. But start with 1 out of 4 converting to lead. Next question, is it possible to have this recorded and listen? Oh yeah, we've recorded it. We're going to put it up on the ROI Center within the next day or 2. It will be up there and ready for available for replay. Let's see. Someone asks, I'd be interested in hearing about a universal lead capture device and how they work. Yeah, you know, that's now again, they're not inexpensive. You could be talking $4,000 to $8,000. But if you do multiple shows and if you really want to go deep, they might be a good fit because they have the ability to do a lot of things like, number one is really build your qualifiers, your survey branching with trees, the ability to instantly deliver information, PDFs right on the fly, the ability to talk and interface with your CRM, literally have the leads go right into your CRM, the ability to notify your rep that the interaction happened in the booth. So there's a lot of functionality, but with the apps now, like Brett's doing, they're closing the gap on that too. So make sure you look at the show system first, and then if it doesn't or can't do what you want, then at that point I would suggest looking into a universal capture system. Someone's asking, if we have 5 people in a 10 by 10 and are not all standing and greeting, do you still see the same issues? I do, especially if 3 of them are sitting down in the booth. There's 2 of you standing, there's 3 of you sitting. It feels crowded to me. What are those 3 people doing sitting in the booth? I don't get it, right? That's not helping you. They're taking up space, and they're kind of, you know, it's just not good, right? The staffing rule of thumb, 2, maybe 3 people in a 10 by 10. Okay, a visitor is walking by my booth. How long do I have to make contact. Not long. In a small booth, if you're in a 10 by 10, you have what I call the 1.25 rule. 1.25 steps. Here's the technique to get more people to notice you. Stand up, open your body posture, put a smile on your face, and look into the aisle. SOS. Stand, open posture, smile, then look. That's how you get people to notice your booth. Very few booth staffers do that. Those who do cause the visitor to look at their booth. When they look at your booth, in their mind, they'll ask, what do you do and why should I care? Make sure your booth answers those stories. What's the best way to make contact? Hi, how you doing? Hey, what brought you to the show? What were you hoping to find at the show? You don't want to launch, now when they walk in your booth, right, if they come up and into your booth, hey, what brings you by? I noticed you were looking at our devices. Tell me about your interest. But if they're in the aisle, you want to keep your questions a little not so intrusive. What you don't want to do is stand on the end of your booth. The dentist walks by and you go, hey, doctor, if I could show you how to reduce your appointment no-shows by 50%, would you be interested? Right? That's what you don't want to do. It's aggressive. There's no rapport yet. Make the human bond before you go for the business bond. Stand, open, smile, look, and ask a question. How are you enjoying the show? What have you seen most interesting so far? What were you hoping to find at the show? Stuff like that, right? And keep it easy and non-threatening. Okay? Somebody had an open space in their workbook, clarity of and commitment to blank, the next step. Clarity of and commitment to the next step are critical leverage points. How often should we follow up on a lead when a dentist does not reply to a follow-up email? Great question, and I'm going to back that up. If they're not following up on the email, you probably didn't get commitment to the next step. Okay? You probably said, maybe you said, well, if I can scan your badge, we'll send you some information. And being the nice people that many of them are, they'll say, okay, sure, fine, scan my badge, but I'm not going to read your email. Why? Because you didn't ask. I would much rather you, instead of just scanning and pushing emails on people, this is what I'd rather you do. Get the visitor to agree, and here's how you do it. Dr. Smith, based on what you've learned so far about our practice management software, does it sound like it might be worth a closer look? Notice based on what you've learned so far, does it sound like it might be worth a closer look? Yeah, it does. Great. What do you think our next step should be? What do you think we should do from here? When you ask the visitor to collaborate on the next step, their commitment to it becomes more real versus if I go, well, if I can scan your card, we'll contact you. Did he ask for his card to be scanned, his badge? Did he ask for you to call him? So collaborate with the visitor on the next step. Confirm that there's legitimate interest, and then collaborate on the next step. And it looks like my final question here is, well, the question is how often should you follow up, especially by email? Don't overdo the email thing. You want to get blacklisted and pushed into the spam filter. I think you should ask, how interested are you? How would we best follow up with you? And how much is too much? You start sending them an email a day for the 10 days after the show, I'm telling you, you're going into the junk filter. You're going to get blacklisted, okay? So it's not about that. It's about meeting somebody, getting agreement that this is worth talking about, determining what the next step is now while we're here in the booth, and then following up on that next step. That's what it's really about. Final question. What did AIDA stand for? Attention, interest, desire, action. That's the formula. Okay, we are out of time. I really appreciate everybody logging in, and the majority of you have stayed on all the way, 10 minutes past. On behalf of Lisa and everyone at CDS, I want to thank you so much for investing this time. I want to thank you for being an exhibitor in the midwinter meeting. Brett, everybody at Advanced Trade Show Technology, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being willing to raffle away a free lead retrieval to somebody on this webinar today. And from my company, Competitive Edge, I want to thank you guys. And I just want to close with this. It's not what you heard that matters. It's what you do. I want you to find 3 specific ideas from today's webinar before you move on to your next task. I want you to do them. You've got time. You're right in the sweet spot here for the show. Because if you will, I can close not by wishing you a better CDS midwinter meeting. Promise you, you'll have a better meeting. So go get them. Have a great show. And this concludes today's Exhibitor webinar. Thanks for logging in, everybody.